She walks into a room, and without a word, the air shifts. You feel it before you understand it. It's not the curve of her face, not the clothes she wears, not anything you can logically name, but something ancient inside you responds. As if a part of you you've forgotten is suddenly wide awake. There are women who don't chase attention, yet it follows them. Not because they demand it, but because they carry a quiet power, one that speaks directly to something deeper in you. Carl Jung once said, "What we do not bring into consciousness appears in our lives as fate." And maybe that's exactly what this is. The silent pull of the unconscious, the deep river of energies that flows beneath all of our words and all of our masks. We connect not through what we say, but through what we radiate. In a world addicted to the noise and performance, it's the subtle that truly moves us. A still presence, a quiet breath, a pause that holds the weight of eternity. The kind of presence that doesn't announce itself, yet everyone feels it. Real magnetism isn't manufactured. It's not a look or a line or a gesture you practice in front of a mirror. It comes from within, from something reconciled, something accepted. A woman who is at home in herself, who no longer needs to prove or perform, becomes a mirror to everything we've longed for and forgotten. Her silence isn't empty. It's full of life, full of groundedness, full of mystery. She doesn't try to fill the space around her because she is the space. And when she enters a room, it doesn't feel crowded. It feels calm, safe, like finally coming home. You may not be able to explain why you're drawn in, but your body knows. Your spirit recognizes it, because presence like that isn't common, it's sacred, and it can't be faked. She doesn't need to be loud to be heard. She doesn't need to perform to be seen. Her existence alone whispers, "I am here, I am enough." And that whisper says more than any scream. In her stillness, you begin to slow down too. In her calm, your chaos softens. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, you feel peace just standing near her. That is the power of a silent presence. It's not control, it's not strategy, it's self-belonging. And within that presence, subtle movements speak louder than grand gestures ever could. A tilt of the head, a moment of still eye contact, and the way her breath slows when she's truly listening. These are the things your unconscious notices long before your mind catches up. Jung understood that symbols are the true language of the soul. And a smile, a real grounded, effortless smile, is one of those symbols. It doesn't say, "Look at me." It says, "I've looked within." And that kind of smile, it pulls you in, not because it wants something, but because it gives something. A smile that doesn't explain itself, that doesn't try too hard, one that rises from a place of fullness, not lack, from joy, not approval seeking. That smile is an invitation, not to conquer, not to consume, but to wonder, to be curious again. And if a smile can move something in you, the eyes can change everything. There are eyes that don't flinch, don't dart, don't look away. Eyes that see, really see, not just the surface, but something beneath. When a gaze holds your own and doesn't demand, and doesn't shrink, doesn't perform, something ancient awakens. Because that kind of gaze speaks directly to the soul. It says, "I'm not afraid of you, I'm not trying to control you, I just see you." And in that moment, you feel more known than you have in years. We don't fall for words. We fall for energy, for presence, for the unspoken, for the space between gestures, for the truth behind the eyes. And when someone carries that within them, quietly, effortlessly, you don't just notice. You remember. You remember what it's like to feel without explanation, to connect without conditions, to be drawn in without even knowing why. And that is the most powerful kind of attraction there is. There are glances that pass without a trace, and then there are those that stop time, wordless, still, yet electric. They don't just meet the eyes, they reach behind the mask, into the place where something ancient and untouched resides. From the lens of Jungian psychology, we don't see others as they are. We see them through the veil of our ornate inner world. Every glance, every feeling we project carries echoes of our own unconscious, and the gaze, more than any spoken word, becomes the gateway to this exchange. A slow, steady gaze, free of performance, free of need, isn't just a moment of contact. It's a mirror. It's a whisper that says, "I see you." Are you ready to see yourself? When a woman meets the world with eyes that neither flinch nor demand, she carries a quiet storm. Not loud, not forceful, just present, fully. She becomes more than someone you look at. She becomes someone you feel, because what radiates isn't just beauty, it's presence, it's honesty. And sometimes that honesty is more than others are prepared for, because within her gaze lies no agenda, no need for approval, only a steady invitation to return to what's real. Jung believed the unconscious in others responds to what we fear just as much as what we long for. That's why a gaze unguarded by pretense can awaken desire, discomfort, even resistance. It reveals the truth of the moment, and truth, when it shows up without disguise, can be terrifying. But it can also be liberating. To stand in your gaze without shrinking, to remain there without the urge to flee, that is courage. A courage that doesn't need to speak, because it already says everything. But ask yourself, do you truly allow yourself to be seen? Or do you sometimes turn away, afraid that being visible might cost too much? Because beyond the eyes, there's a second language, a more delicate, powerful one, vulnerability. But not the kind that begs for saving or softly manipulates for attention. Real vulnerability is still, grounded. It doesn't perform. It simply says, this is me. And in that simplicity lies immense power. Jung reminded us, what we bury in the unconscious doesn't disappear. It lives in our relationships, our repeating patterns, our stalker attractions, and our wounds. But when a woman shares her rawness without embellishing it in drama, without shaping it into a plea, she sends out something unmistakable. I hold myself. I don't need to be rescued from my truth. I've met myself there already. This kind of openness isn't about sharing everything. It's about revealing enough to show you've made peace with what lives inside you. There's no need for noise, no hunger for applause, just a steady hand resting on the pulse of her own humanity. And when you stand before someone like that, you're not looking at weakness. You're looking at someone who's done the quiet work of meeting every hidden corner, and chosen not to run. So ask yourself, when you let someone see you, are you giving them a gift? Or are you hoping they'll give something back in return? Because when vulnerability is offered without strings, it opens the door to something sacred. It creates space, not for fixing or fixing others, but for breathing, for being. And in a world so loud with exposure and oversharing, there is something irresistible about mystery. The kind of mystery that isn't fabricated or strategic, but born of self-knowing. Jung spoke of symbols, those half-revealed, half-hidden images that awaken something primal in us. What touches us most deeply isn't what's obvious, it's what lingers just out of reach. The suggestion of meaning, the whisper of depth, that which is sensed more than explained. A woman who doesn't rush to reveal herself, who guards the keys to her inner world, becomes more than just interesting. She becomes unforgettable. Because mystery is not about secrecy, it's about sovereignty. It's the choice to open slowly, to let intimacy unfold rather than be forced. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about knowing you're not for everyone, and being at peace with that. Real mystery invites curiosity, not control. It draws others into their own depth, not just yours. It says, there's more here, but you'll have to earn the right to see it. And the longer it's honored, the deeper the connection grows. Because the soul doesn't fall in love with what is fully visible. It falls for what hints at the sacred, what can't be easily named. So ask yourself, do you preserve the unknown within you? Or do you sometimes feel compelled to lay everything bare just to be understood? Because the truth is, you don't need to be fully decoded to be deeply felt. And often, what you withhold with grace speaks louder than what you reveal. And then, beneath even mystery, lies the rarest energy of all. The kind that doesn't sway or chase. It simply stands. A quiet inner stability that asks for nothing, yet commands everything. It's not born from confidence as a posture, but from reconciliation with the self. Jung called this individuation, the long inward path of becoming whole. This energy doesn't need validation. It doesn't ask to be seen. It simply is. It's the calm that comes when you're no longer performing your worth, when you've stopped proving, when the fight to be chosen has been replaced by the knowing that you already are. Not because someone says so, but because you've finally returned to yourself. When a woman moves from that space, her presence speaks before her voice ever does. She doesn't impose, she doesn't chase, she doesn't shrink. Her silence sets boundaries. Her stillness creates gravity. She doesn't ask for attention. She receives it, not because she demands it, but because her essence has already made the room listen. There's a kind of energy you can't fake. Jung called it integrated energy, an alignment so deep it resonates in silence. You feel it when someone enters a room and doesn't shrink or expand based on who's watching. It's the calm in their no, the stillness in their presence. It doesn't ask for validation, it simply is. When your worth is rooted in your own source, you no longer chase, explain, or demand to be seen. You don't need the spotlight. You become the light, quiet, steady, undeniable. Have you ever asked yourself, where does your security come from? Is it fueled by the desire to be acknowledged, or by the unshakable connection you hold with yourself? Because when you stop seeking approval and start living in truth, something extraordinary happens. A light rises, not loud, not staged, but real, and it speaks directly to those ready to recognize it. In a world obsessed with image, authenticity becomes an act of quiet rebellion. Jung saw this tension clearly, the lifelong pull between who we are and the persona we wear to fit in, the woman who has come home to herself. She doesn't need to announce her independence. She doesn't prove her strength. She doesn't dramatize her emotions. She just lives her truth. Individuation, Jung said, isn't about discarding the persona. It's about not confusing it with who we really are. To be authentic is to notice when we're adapting and to gently return to our center. It's to say, I don't need to perform. I'm already enough. When a woman allows herself to be all that she is, messy, evolving, deep, without apology or strategy, something in her shifts. She radiates a vibration you can't copy, a serenity that cannot be performed, the energy of someone who has stopped fighting herself. And that coherence, that inner peace, it's magnetic. So ask yourself, are you living from your true essence or from the role you think you're supposed to play? Because when authenticity becomes second nature, a powerful stillness emerges, a silent stance that both attracts and protects, the ability to withdraw without drama, without explanation, when your spirit is no longer fed. Not everything sacred is found in staying. Sometimes the most radical love is in knowing when it's time to go. From a Jungian lens, this is individuation in action, the subtle art of discernment, of knowing what still aligns and what no longer does. A woman who walks away from what stifles her is not fleeing. She is not punishing. She is choosing herself. And in that choice, her energy expands, quietly, powerfully, unforgettably. Do you know how to walk away in peace? Or do you linger, hoping someone else will mirror back your worth? Because the truth is, the most powerful gestures are often the quietest. The smile that carries no need, the gaze that holds depth, the withdrawal that holds no bitterness. These moments are where true energy speaks, not to the conscious mind, but to the unconscious. And that's where real connection lives. This is not about effort, not about image. It's about the level of intimacy you've built with yourself, the respect you give your own energy, the calm way you inhabit your truth, even when no one sees it. Jung reminded us, what we do not make conscious controls us. And often it's the subtle, unspoken postures, the glance, the stillness, the mystery that leave the deepest mark on others. Because you can't perform this kind of presence. You can't mimic it. You become it through the quiet decision to stop chasing love and start embodying it. This is how a connection is born that defies time, that isn't about transaction or validation, but about resonance. Invisible, lasting, real. So now I ask you, gently, honestly, which of these truths already lives within you, and which one calls you to grow? Share with me in the comments. Because maybe the first act of true connection isn't about reaching out. It's about remembering who you are and letting that essence speak, even in your silence. If this journey has touched something within you, subscribe and keep diving deeper with me into the vast and mysterious waters of the unconscious.